ladies and gentlemen, we'll take our seats and start the meetings in a moment. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will begin the Special Council Public Planning meeting. It is Wednesday, March 25th. Madam Clerk, it is 7:02. I will ask for any declaration of pecuniary interests. At the council table, I see none. I will then ask for someone to put a motion to approve the agenda. Councillor Gardner, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Comments, questions? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries, Madam Clerk. All right, so this is a public planning meeting, and I'll start off by reading a statement. Welcome to the Aurora's public planning meeting. The purpose of this public meeting is to inform the public of applications and obtain public input. No decision on the applications will be made tonight. For each planning application that will be considered by council tonight, the following process will occur. First, the town planning staff will outline the purpose of the planning application being considered. Second, the applicant will be given an opportunity to make a presentation and address issues raised in the staff report or public concerns already filed. Thirdly, following these presentations, members of the public will be invited to offer their comments or concerns respecting the proposal. And finally, either the town staff or the applicant will answer your questions. I will keep track with the clerk, and Mr. Ramuno will keep track of the questions, and when we have several of them, we will direct them to whoever can best answer them. Once we have heard from members of the public, I will ask the members of councils if they have any questions or comments. It should be noted that a comprehensive report will be prepared and presented to a future general committee meeting, assessing the merits of the applications before us and providing council with a recommendation for consideration. It is very important that the town receive the correct names and addresses of individuals having an interest in each planning application. Therefore, if you plan to speak to council at this meeting, or if you want to be notified of any further council or committee meetings concerning the application being considered, you must complete one of the green interested party forms that's being held up by Linda, thank you, and give it to our committee secretary, which is Linda sitting at the front. Under the Planning Act, the applicant or residents have the right to appeal any decision of council on a planning application to the Ontario Municipal Board, but you must verbally express any comments or concerns here tonight, or submit any comments or concerns in writing to the town prior to the council adopting an amendment. The Ontario Municipal Board will dismiss all or part of an appeal made in respect of the application. It may dismiss all or part. This public meeting is being audio-video recorded. Your name, address, comments, and any other personal information are being recorded according to the Municipal Act and the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. This will help our clerk prepare accurate minutes and to create a record that is available to the general public, including the town's website. Questions about this collection should be directed to the town clerk, Town of Aurora. I will now ask the deputy clerk to confirm that notification to the public occurred as required by the Planning Act.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. The required notice of public meeting for item 1, the proposed plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment, David Frattaroli, 14288 Yonge Street, Falls, SUB-2014-04 and ZBA-2014-09 was given by mail on March 5th, 2015 to all addressed property owners within a minimum distance of 120 meters of the subject land, and the mailing list was enlarged to include property owners beyond the minimum distance of 120 meters. The required notice was also given by information signage posted at 14288 Yonge Street and by notification in the Aurora Era banner and the Aurora newspapers in accordance with the rules of procedure under the Planning Act. The required notice of public meeting for item 2, the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment applications, RCG Aurora North Limited Partnership, 800 St. John Side Road, Falls, OPA 2012-02 and ZBA 2012-09 was given by mail on March 9, 2015 to all persons who have requested to be notified as interested parties.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I just would poll the audience. We have two items. Is the first one is a new one, and the second one is the Rice Group at Bayview and St. John's. Is it the second one that you're here for? Okay, thank you very much. I will now ask the Director of Planning and Development Services, Mr. Ramuno, to begin with presentations.
Certainly, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Just before we begin, we have the two items. The first item is the Young Street application, the proposed zoning and subdivision. The owner and the planning consultant for that item are supposed to be here. I don't see them. If council agrees, if we'd like to switch the order and proceed with our presentations on item 2, if council agrees.
Mr. Ramuno, I think, Madam Clerk, I'll just ask if we can bring that forward in a motion and vote on it? Okay, would someone like to bring that forward? Councilor Gardner, seconded by Councilor Maracas. Is that okay, Councilor Gardner?
Yes, because we're waiting, and also because we have at least 3 members of the public here for the second application.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Mr. Ramuno. Carry on.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, so we'll begin with item 2, official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment application for 800 St. John Side Road. Our planner, Lawrence Cook, will provide a brief overview of the application, and then the applicants are here as well. Mr. Mike Mendez will provide a presentation regarding the revised application before council this evening. Lawrence?
Well, good evening, Mr. Deputy Mayor, members of council. The application here tonight we'll be discussing is the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment on 800 St. John's Side Road. The official plan and zoning amendment application was first heard at the public planning meeting on September 24th, 2012. The applicant then revised their submission and brought the proposal back to another public planning meeting 2 years after, on September 24th, 2014. At that council, the application were to be brought back to another public planning meeting, and that's why we're here tonight. So as mentioned before, the applicant is proposing an official plan amendment. The applicant is proposing to amend the subject lands from convenience commercial to community commercial designation. In conjunction, the applicant is also changing the zoning from rural zoning to a commercial exception zone. The purpose of these two applications is to provide a wide range of commercial uses, from a supermarket to a multi-tenant commercial unit. The slide shows the subject site in red. As you can see, we're at the northeast corner of Bayview and St. John Side Road. To the west, we have existing residential. To the east is the Matamete residential subdivision, separated by environmental protection lands. To the south are existing residential with existing commercial as well. The subject land is currently designated as convenience commercial, with open space designation to the east, residential to the west, and commercial and residential designation to the south. Very quickly here, the proposed official plan amendment is to change convenience commercial, which is intended for smaller scale, day-to-day shopping needs, to a community commercial, which allows for more of a larger commercial use, such as a supermarket. The slide here shows the existing zoning surrounding the subject lands. As you can see, the subject land is surrounded by environmental protection lands to the north and east, a residential zoning across Bayview Avenue, and residential and commercial zoning just south of the site across from St. John's Side Road. The proposed amendment is to change the current zoning from rural, once again, to a commercial zoning, which currently does not allow, the rural zoning currently does not allow commercial uses. The applicant has proposed 5 exceptions, which are detailed in the staff report, which mainly speaks to setback requirements. So both application has been circulated to the internal and external staff, and here are just some preliminary comments. the Conservation Authority will be reviewing the floodplains and grading. The region will have to approve any access off of Bayview and St. John's, as well as we'll be reviewing the urban design principles with this application. And of course, we'll review the compatibility and appropriateness of this official plan and zoning application. This is a quick slide to show the previous application that was heard and shown at the September 24th, 2014 public meeting. And this is the current conceptual site plan. Staff would just like to let council know that a formal site plan application has not been submitted, so at this time this is only a conceptual site plan. The main difference here between the two plans here is a revised location for full access off of Bayview has been relocated slightly, and there's a removal of a larger drive-through restaurant along St. John has now been proposed along Bayview to a smaller footprint building, as well as the applicant has met the zoning requirement, whereas before there were short amount of parking spaces, as well as the relocation of the loading spaces to the building A along the northerly portion of the site. The next few slides is going to be conceptual elevation of the proposal. So the arrow showing that we're looking at the building A. The first elevation shows what it's going to look like, could look like from facing the interior of the site. The second elevation will be facing, it wouldn't be facing Bayview, sorry about that part. Oh, sorry, it's the western elevation facing Bayview. Next, we're going to be looking at its building B at closer to the intersection of St. John's Side Road and Bayview. Once again, the second elevation of the bottom will be facing Bayview Avenue. The top elevations will be facing interior of the site, and these are your multi-tenant buildings. Building C along St. John's Side Road is shown in the red arrow. The top elevation shows what it could look like in the interior of the site. The second elevation shows what it could look like as you drive down St. John's Side Road. And once again, these are all multi-tenant commercial units. Building D, it's another multi-tenant unit. Looks similar to the other ones. And the building E, which is going to be the proposed smaller scale drive-through bank or restaurant, will be what will look like from the interior of the site as well as from Bayview Avenue. As mentioned before, this application has been brought to the public planning meeting before, and here is just some quick summary of some of the public comments we received as to date. So in summary, the residents are concerned with the duplication of stores. They would like to suggest an alternative use such as a retirement home. The proposed drive-through restaurant would create noise issue, lighting pollutions, as well as the residents has concern about the operational hours of the drive-through restaurant. They had concerns about traffic congestion and just general safety. As mentioned, after tonight's meeting, staff will take a technical review of and provide a comprehensive report and provide a recommendation back for council's consideration at a future general committee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. We'll ask the applicant to come up. Mike? Excuse me.
Yes, okay. Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of council. My name is Michael Mendez. I am the Senior Development Manager with Rice Commercial Group. We are also the owners of RCG, Aurora North Limited Partnership. I'd like to thank staff for the review of our application and preparation of the report, and Lawrence's detailed breakdown actually covered my entire presentation, so I can actually skip through it pretty quickly here tonight. And also, council, for your time this evening. I've read the report and the contents within and agree with everything and the proposed recommendation to bring our application back to a future general committee meeting. I can just breeze through this presentation. It's pretty much the same thing Lawrence just presented to you. So here's our context plan. Shows our site outlined in red. Where just to provide some
more context is that the site is approximately the same size as our Longo's development, just at the site, corner of Bayview and Wellington, just to put it into perspective. We're surrounded by residential and retail uses, and we're bordered by regional roads and a valley. Here's our concept plan for May 2014. It's been now redesigned to this plan. Again, Lawrence covered everything here that we were discussing. One point is our regional access onto Bayview. We've been in discussions with the region, and we've now aligned our access to be at the center point between St. John Side Road and Ballymore. That was one of the comments that came back, and we're just kind of tweaking the last details with them, so we're in discussions with them. We've also provided a smaller scale use for the drive-through, something on the lines of a bank and not so much a restaurant at this time. And we've moved the food store further north again to comply with the parking bylaw and accommodate the ratios that are required for the site. Here's our elevations of the junior anchor and anchor building, the food store. We've provided a glass atrium for the food store, and the junior tenant beside them will be a slightly smaller user, but larger than most of the users on site. And it will be broken up with different materials to kind of give it the different massings and separating the buildings. This is our typical multi-tenant building. What we've done here is we've broken up the elevations to give each unit a different facade. We've used different parapet heights to break up the elevations, and we feel this is a sleek and modern type of architectural theme we'll be bringing to this corner. Again, these are the last elevations. They're all pretty much the same at this time until we get into a further detailed design through a site plan application. I would like to mention that, as I did mention, we are the same developers as the Longo site at the corner of Bayview and Wellington, and the new LA Fitness site opening soon on Bayview. Our Longo site has done very well over these 5 to 7 years, and it's always been 100% occupied. The LA Fitness site at this time that we're developing, which is under construction, is about 90% leased, and we have tenants like Panera Bread going into the site and a specialty boutique prepared foods type of user. And we also have a few smaller type tenants that will be going into the multi-tenant building. We're very happy with the success of our centers and recognize the market along the Bayview corridor, and we're confident that the site will be successful. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mendez. We are now going to ask for comments from the public. So if anyone would like to come down and talk to the council, now's your time. All right, Madam Clerk, I don't see anyone coming forward. We can now, if council would like to ask any questions to staff or to the applicant? Regarding the presentation. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Mike, if I can invite you back to the podium.
Mr. Mendez, please come back. Get comfortable.
Over the last couple of years, as indicated by staff, we've seen a few different variations of the site plan for this corner site. And as I looked over the older ones, it showed a little bit more of a landscaping feature, which doesn't necessarily show well in this current version. So I was just wondering, perhaps it may not have been decided upon, but could you just sort of speak to what you perceive as some of the landscaping features around this site? Because as noted in the report, it is a bit of a gateway corner into Aurora.
Yes, through our site plan application, we will be detailing the finer details of the landscaping, but in our preliminary looks at the site, the north-south pedestrian connection leading from St. John Side Road directly in front of the food store will have some sort of landscaping component to it. We will be addressing the corner of St. John Side Road and Bayview that will have a landscaping feature. And then again, along all our frontages, any open areas into the site will be screened and landscaped appropriately.
And if I may, I mean, when you say landscape, are we also talking, be it trees or shrubbery or vegetation, or what sort of things were you thinking of?
Yes, where we can accommodate it, we will have trees planted in the larger islands and shrubs and some low-lying screening fencing.
And that certainly seems to be consistent with some of the previous versions that we saw that sort of had that, I guess, highlighted around there. Thank you very much.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Following on Councillor Thompson's comments, I noticed that the setbacks have been reduced quite a lot, and the developer is asking for the front lot line to be St. John's Side Road. So it's moving the whole development right up close to the street. So why was that done, and in any way does that affect the landscaping that can be put there?
Mr. Mendez, please.
Thank you. We will be, submitting a variance to our zoning to accommodate a smaller setback. This is typical urban design type design where you bring the buildings closer to the street and add the pedestrian scale so that when you're on the street side, you can feel that you're closer to the buildings. Landscaping, it will be about a 6-meter, it's a 3-meter setback, so you'll have about 10 feet of landscaping between our property line and the building. And then there's also the right-of-way lands that the region would own that has their own landscaping.
Thank you, and that would be 10 meters of your property, that's excluding the sidewalk.
Sorry, 10 feet, yes.
Sorry, 10 feet. So that might be a challenge if we were planting any trees there.
Typically, sorry.
Actually, that's really not a question. Sorry, it was just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Mendez, I noticed just a follow-up to Councillor Gardner's comment, that the buildings are kind of more sidewalk-friendly, they're closer to the street. And I noticed that the Longos and other developments along Bayview, it's the parking lot that faces the Bayview, which I never found attractive to begin with. So I was just curious, you having property, or your corporation having property in those areas, what made you guys decide to change for this particular development in that corner to have the buildings closer to the sidewalk as opposed to having the parking lot facing the sidewalk or street level?
Mr. Mendez?
Thank you. This site is slightly different than the other two sites. If I can give you a little background history of Bayview and Wellington, is there is a creek that runs across the frontage of that site, so it didn't lead to have the buildings closer to the street in that instance. We do have the banks right up against the corner of the intersection, and then with Earl Stewart, the LA Fitness site, the site grading has its constraints. So to put a building close to that street on that development, you would basically be looking at the top of the building. We do have a couple of ones that are on the south side of the site that work. With this development, it lends itself to have buildings fronting along the street and makes the design of the site more functional.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Maracus?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, was there ever any thought from the Rice Group to possibly do a multi-level structure instead of just a single-level structure?
At this time, no. Right now, we have a food store that is interested, that would drive the leasing of this site and move forward from there. I can't say it will be a possibility, or I don't know if it will. But at this time, it's the food store that would drive the rest of the tenants in the site.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and if I may ask Mr. Mendez, you mentioned at the beginning of your presentation that you were tacking at this, I know we're a long way off, but you're tacking at this point in time to a smaller building for the drive-through with perhaps a bank as opposed to a restaurant. And I'm just wondering, these days, especially with climate change and all that being a very important issue to many Canadians, if a drive-through for a bank would be necessary. Now, I understand that we're still a long way off from that, but I just want to know if you could comment on that. So if it's not going to be a Tim Hortons or a food store of some nature, whether a drive-through would be necessary.
Mr. Mendez, please.
Thank you. At this time, the banks that have interest in our site right now have been requesting a drive-through. To speak, I'm a father of 3, personally, right now, sorry. When I like to go to the bank, if I have my kids in my car, I don't want to unbuckle them and drag them into the bank. So when I can, I use the drive-through myself. It's limited. I go to Tim Hortons, I walk in by myself when I go first thing in the morning. And I do know a lot of people that do that, the same people I see every morning. But at this time, the banks have requested a drive-through, so we would like to have that on our site.
Thank you. That concludes our... Councillor Gardner, another question? Go ahead.
Thank you for clarification. There is no intention to make this a Tim Hortons or another restaurant-type drive-through?
Not at this time, no.
Not at this time.
All right, Council, that concludes the questions to the presenter. Thank you very much, Mr. Mendez. We can allow public input at this time?
If they have any questions, you can ask.
Well, sure, I see someone that would like to come down. Please feel free to come down. We're trying something new. We have a pad of paper there. If you don't mind putting your name there.
I did last time, so that's why I did it this time.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. My question is
If
about the...
if you don't mind stating your name and address, please.
Oh, sorry. My name is Sue Pestel, and I live at 3 Wynn Place. That's Bayview in St. John.
Trade wind.
My question is along St. John's. There's a proposed right-in and right-out exit and entrance for this plaza. With the amount of traffic and construction, if cars are trying to get out and the traffic flow is going west along St. John's, is that going to become a bottleneck there? And is that just a drive-through, that there are no lights or anything there to control that entering and exiting?
Okay, and that's the one, the right in and right on off of St. John's.
That's correct,
Thank
yes.
you.
Because there is, from my subdivision, a street Mavernack that you go out to, and I can anticipate, hopefully not, a bottleneck there with that entrance and exit in, cars trying to get out onto St. John and into Mavernack, so they're fairly close together there.
Thank you. I'll ask Mr. Ramuno to respond to that.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Yeah, the proposed access from St. John's to the site is right in, right out. So cars, it's not a full move access point, and it won't be signalized. And based on our discussions with the region, they're still working out the final location design, but they're supportive of a right in, right out in that location, and it shouldn't cause any traffic concerns along St. John's. The region will be reconstructing St. John's beginning late 2015, 2016, and they'll be reconstructing St. John's and Leslie Street to a full 4-lane cross-section road.
I'm just seeing the amount of cars parking, so if they're all lined to come out and they're trying to enter onto St. John's and there are cars coming from the east going west, I was just concerned about that. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Madam Clerk, we have invited the public to speak.
Hello, Mayor Council. My name is Sharon Centralban, and I live at 143 Downing Circle. I'm at the end house there, right at Bayview in St. John. And I was here at the last meeting. I love this design that you have. Thank you, sir. It's urban, it's sleek, it's different. It's not just a strip mall, you know. It's boring, and people drive through it. It's just, you have to go in, you have to go in. It's a chore. So I'm liking the promise of this new idea. My concern, of course, is traffic, which this lady has mentioned, and that seems to be taken care of at this point. I'm thrilled that there hasn't been tower blocks or anything that's cutting everything off. At the back of, I believe, is the little creek lake or something, and the buildings that are now moving so fast with growth here in Aurora. We'll perhaps see more, which I don't, is the parking at the back. From my standpoint, on the west side of Aurora, I'd rather look at stores than a parking lot. So I really like this design for myself on the subdivision on that side. The big supermarket at the end, the north side, well, that's good. And I really, really like the fact that it's a short building as opposed to big ones. I can still get the sun into my house. And I also like the landscaping too, so I'd like that to be drawn to the attention. That still is carried through. Just cut up the concrete just a little bit so it's a little bit more pleasing. As for the drive-through, that's a concern for everybody, and we all use it at times. Very good point. You know, the kids are in the car, my grandkids are in the car. I use it too. But I think it's a little bit better than originally the McDonald's drive-through and the litter and, you know, everything else, and the smell of the fat, you know, when you're sitting out on the deck, you know, selfishly. So I really like that. It's a bank. It's something I believe that, I can't remember your name, has offered that as quite a big incentive too, because we will go to the bank and, you know, how busy can that be throughout the night. So I'm just about to say that I'm actually quite thrilled at this point, believing that you will take care of the landscaping, make sure that's a little bit appeasing, and that the traffic is in your side taken care of. But I think it looks actually quite nice, and I'm very happy. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I think at this stage, Madam Clerk, we'll close off the public and we'll put this on the table, this item, for council to deliberate and make a decision. So could I have someone move it? Councilor Maracas, seconded by Councilor Humphreys. So council, the questions, comments. Councilor Maracas?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just had a couple of questions, actually. Just Councilor Gardner touched about the sidewalks through to Mr. Ramuno. When St. John's does get reconstructed by the region, will they be adding sidewalks? And if they do, will the minimum buffer that we're allowing, will that affect the size of the sidewalk and, you know, how much landscaping and where the sidewalk will actually be positioned?
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Chair. A good question. The region, they will be improving St. John's, and I'll have to confirm it as to whether part of their contract they are installing sidewalks. I'm pretty sure they will be, but that will all occur within the regional right-of-way. So beyond that, just north of the regional right-of-way, as we enter the Rice Group private property, there'll be a sufficient minimum 3-meter landscape strip where we will work with the developer to ensure that there's the appropriate amount of landscaping. But even south of that 3-meter landscape strip, there will still be a part of the regional boulevard which will be green or grassed, and there's always an opportunity for planting there. So the sidewalk will not impact this site development as we see here. It will be within the current regional right-of-way.
Councilor, is it for now?
I'll take Mike, Councilor Thompson first, and then Councilor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through to Mr. Ramuno as well. Along the same lines, I was thinking as well with regards to the widening of St. John's and you know what that impact is. Obviously, as the region had an opportunity to consider whether or not they need extra space for the widening of St. John's in lieu of this proposal. sometimes we talk about the different, or shall we say, constrained parts of Aurora, and we know that until it gets developed, we can't really address it. Obviously, Yonge and Wellington is first and foremost. And so, similar to Councillor Maracas' question, is that, if in order to widen St. John's at this point, they need to take some land on either side, how does that affect the overall look of the development?
Mr. Romano, please.
Sorry, to you, Mr. Chair. The region has been working on their design for St. John's and Leslie Street, and they're actually proceeding to secure all the property, and they've secured most of it from the rest of the 2C landowners group. So my understanding is they already have the widening along this frontage, along the St. John's frontage, so they will be able to proceed to reconstruct St. John's.
Councillor Tom?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. A great question from Councillor Thompson. That was really something that I hadn't thought of. I guess I'd just like to reiterate what the question I posed to Mr. Mendez and put it into more of a comment, and that is that while I'm generally supportive of the way, the direction that this is going, and I think it looks wonderful, I think it's an improvement on the last application for sure, and I know this is just a conceptual plan. In this day and age, I'll just reiterate that my preference would be to see less drive-throughs in Aurora as opposed to more. There's a lot of vehicles that idle. Now, banks are a bit less busy, so perhaps there's less idling at bank drive-throughs, but I guess my comments would be that, but it wouldn't stop me from supporting this, so I just thought I'd get that on the record.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Humphries, I have you next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to just say thank you to the Rice Group and the work you've done. We were here in September, and you listened to the residents' concerns. We want to see something just a lot more fitting for the area, and you just did. You nailed it. You really did. Thank you so much. It helps us and the residents feel proud of where we're going with the community and what we're putting in place. So I just want to thank the Rice Group and the residents for bringing your concerns forward and allowing the developers to listen and do their best to develop something we're all happy and proud of. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gardner.
I wasn't able to attend the September 24th meeting, but I know that the chamber was packed, and I'm guessing everybody who was here was circulated and nobody's here. Well, sorry, very few people are here compared to last time, so I can only assume that apart from the traffic issue, which is an important issue, the residents are satisfied. Just wanted to ask on page 3 at the very bottom, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, to Mr. Muno, zoning bylaw. So the change of that zoning bylaw, it's to permit the following uses. So does that mean that any of the uses on page 4 could be permitted? There is a conceptual design at the moment, but could any of these uses be permitted?
Mr. Romano.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, the list of uses that we've provided on page 4 are the list of uses that the applicant has requested, so it is a longer list than what you see by the way of uses on the conceptual plan. As we've heard, they do want to have some flexibility with respect to attracting users, but that is the list that they are requesting.
Councillor?
Thank you. So there still could be a private and commercial club. There still could be drive-through restaurants.
Mr. Romano.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, and the C4 shopping center zone, those are uses that are typically found in those shopping center zones.
Thank you. With respect to the decreased buffer areas, was that done in order to provide enough parking? Was it done for design guidelines?
Mr. Romano, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Good question. It's a combination of both. Some of those, we've had this discussion whenever a zoning bylaw comes forward. Some of the standards in our current zoning bylaws are dated. They go back to the late 70s. So there are new sort of planning and urban design principles with respect to, as we've heard, trying to, where appropriate, providing the grading works, and there are no other constraints with respect to features on the site, to bring the buildings closer to the street, just to create a more pedestrian-friendly environment. And so that is why we see a lot of site planned where exceptions to some of the old landscape buffers are reduced, just to be able to bring the building closer to the street, create that pedestrian activity, as well as trying to achieve the proper parking supply. But again, that 3-meter landscape buffer is sufficient for our park staff to work with the applicant in ensuring that there's proper landscaping and the proper mix of vegetation within those strips to provide that appropriate screening and buffering.
Thank you. It does say that 309 parking spaces are going to be provided in the chart. Then just below that, it says a parking lot with 299 spaces. And also, how many spaces are required here?
Mr. Romero?
Through you, Mr. Chair. My apologies, I should mention that. The chart does identify 309 spaces. That is what's being provided. And down in the subsequent paragraph, 299, that's a typo. It should be 309. So the conceptual plan shows 309 parking spaces, and that works out to an average of 4.66 per 100 square meters. And I believe that is actually slightly above the C4 standard of 4.5 for shopping centers. So they're actually exceeding the parking rate within the commercial zone.
Thank you. On page 6, with respect to comments, could you speak to the first bullet? Could you explain what that means?
That's the one, the consideration of subject?
Yes,
Thank you.
it is. Thank you.
Certainly. To you, Mr. Chair. Again, that's a standard bullet that we identify in our reports. It's one of the comments that, as planners, we need to evaluate whenever there's a planning application, be it an official plan, zoning bylaw, or any development application. So as part of our review, when we do provide our final report to council, we will provide our planning rationale and arguments as to why we believe an application is considered to be appropriate for a specific parcel of land and how it is compatible with the surrounding land uses.
Thank you. Last question, 2 bullets down. Buffers along both Bayview Avenue and St. John's Side Road will be required.
Certainly, to you, Mr. Chair. Again, that relates to the landscape buffers along all the perimeters, and specifically along their regional arterial roads, and we'll ensure that.
So this is speaking to the region?
Yes. Well, in our landscape requirement, this speaks to our landscape buffer on the private lands, where we'll require the applicant or the owner to install landscaping, vegetation within that 3-meter landscape strip. Beyond that, within the regional right-of-way, there will be a green boulevard as well.
Thank you. And it does say enhanced gateway landscaping will be required.
To Mr. Mayor, that's correct as well, and I think that refers to the actual northeast corner where there is a landscape feature just shown conceptually. We're going to work with the applicant to ensure that we do get an enhanced feature there, and it could be a combination vegetation, a featured benches, similar to what, the Rice Group and kudos to them, the landscape feature that they provided for the Longo site at the corner of Bayview and Wellington Street, in between the 2 banks, something along those lines.
And we didn't speak to signage. I don't think there's anything in this report about signage.
Mr. Romero?
I know that the Rice Group came back to us with respect to enhanced signage after everything was in place.
Through Mr. Mayor, when they submit a formal site plan application and that's presented to council, they will provide signage information and details that council will be able to consider and approve, and they will also work with our building staff to ensure that they comply with our current sign bylaw, and if they need a variance, that will be a separate application.
But council will see that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilor Marcus?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Romuno. I'd back on page 4, when it speaks to the uses under the new zoning, I was just wondering, when it speaks to private and commercial clubs, would that also include nightclubs and dance clubs?
Mr. Romero?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, private and commercial clubs. Lawrence, you have the definition there? Don't have the bylaw handy, but private clubs are typically, in some instances, they could be, an example would be a social club, a health club of some sorts. We'll have to take a look at the definitions within the bylaw to see whether a nightclub would be allowed under that definition, private and commercial clubs. And we can certainly then report back to council on that when we follow up with our report.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. It's just, there's other examples. I brought one example where DNA is right there, it's near residential, and we have some issues when it comes to noise, late in the hours. So I just think that if there was some way, if that was within that bylaw, if we could exclude it, I'm pretty sure that the intentions are not to have a nightclub or dance club, but, I would like to see, like, in the future, if that was in that zoning bylaw, if we could somehow remove that, and that would be great. Thanks.
Duly noted. The planner will work with the developer on putting that in place. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Again, through you to Mr. Romero, just, I know with the Longos Plaza, there was also discussion around adding a turn lane to get into the Longos Plaza, and since here in Bayview it's calling for a signalized intersection, will that also mean that they'll have to make those changes so that there'll be a turn lane implemented for those cars traveling south on Bayview?
Mr. Romero?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Good question. They are working with the region to finalize the design and location of full tune access and a set of signalized lights. That will be, at their expense. And if the region requires a taper lane, that will be, again, at the expense of the owner. So we're going to wait to hear back from the region with respect to the actual final location and design and whether they require any tapering lane. From my recollection, that stretch of Bayview is already a 4-lane, and I think it has a center lane, so a 5-lane cross-section. So I think the right-of-way width of the pavement width of Bayview is sufficient for a full turn moves there with a signalized intersection. But the applicant will have to work with the region to ensure that the signalization is installed as per the region's requirements.
So if required, it would be a fairly simple fix to be able to accommodate it within the existing road allowance.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, exactly. Most of those turning lanes can be accommodated within the regional right-of-way.
Council, if that concludes our questions, we'll call a vote on this motion. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries, Madam Clerk. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, we're going to begin the process for item 1. So we will ask Drew to come forward with his presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor and members of council. The application before us is a draft plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment. The applicant's name is David Frateroli, and the address as previously mentioned was 14288 Yonge Street. The proposal is a draft plan of subdivision to develop 11 residential units. 9 of those would be townhouse units and 2 semi-detached units over approximately 2.2 hectares of land. In total, there'll be 6 blocks consisting of private open space, residential, which is, again, mentioned, townhouses and semi-detached, and private roads. The rezoning application is to rezone the lands from the current rural Oak Ridges Moraine zoning designation to a special mixed-density residential holding, R5 exception zone, private open space, environmental protection. Here we see the subject lands highlighted in red, as well as the circulation boundary in yellow. To the north, and I'll explain this a little bit later, is an institutional block as part of a Coots draft plan of subdivision. Some of you may recall the Coots draft plan was approved in June, I believe June 26th of 2013. And I'll show that a little bit later. So to the north is actually a previously approved institutional block. To the south of the subject lands is a previously approved cluster of residential development. To the west, you can see is fairly heavily wooded. That'll be an environmental protection area. And to the east is currently non-participating owners. For the official plan, the subject lands are located within the Yonge Street South Secondary Plan, also known as Official Plan Amendment Number 34. Through the designation, it's currently designated cluster residential, private open space, environmental protection area, environmental restoration area, ecological buffer, and building setback by the Official Plan Amendment. And here we just see that those designations shown visually. To the south is the environmental protection area and the environmental restoration area, and the north and cross-hatching is the cluster residential. So most of the development permitted will be to the north of this subject lands. In regards to the draft plan of subdivision, the proposal, again, as mentioned, 6 blocks and 2 private roads. There will be 1 made road entering the subdivision with no direct access from Yonge Street. 4 residential blocks will encompass the 9 townhouses and the 2 semi-detached units. Here we can see a brief preliminary concept of the application with private road access to the north. And here we see the larger Coots application. So the application in question, I'll just go back a slide. What we're dealing with today here is the Frateroli site. This application is located in between blocks, I believe it's 7, the institutional block to the north and the cluster residential block to the south. So it's shown on here as a non-participating owner. They've now come forward with an application. The zoning bylaw amendment, as previously mentioned, it's zoned rural Oak Ridges Moraine by the zoning bylaw. The owner has applied, again, to rezone the application to a special mixed density R5, major open space, and environmental protection, which will allow to carry forward the designations of Official Plan Amendment 34. Here we just see the current zoning bylaw. You'll notice that the Coots application to the south is also zoned rural Oak Ridges Moraine. Those bylaws have not yet been enacted. In regards to preliminary comments, primarily conformity to the Yonge Street South Secondary Plan, development and land use policies. We'll still need to review the environmental reports and studies to conform with the settlement area policies of the Oak Ridges Moraine, as well as requiring an updated heritage assessment report and cultural heritage landscape to reflect the existing listed heritage property on the site. Additionally, proposed trails to be reviewed. The majority of the trails for this area have been accommodated through that previous Coots development, but there is a Yonge Street trail that this property touches going north-south along Yonge Street. Also compliance with the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority comments and regulations, and finalization of the proposed road alignment and access with the adjacent landowners to the north and south. Finally, the consideration of the subject application relative to existing future land uses. In conclusion, staff will undertake a technical review of the subject application addressing the outlined matters as well as the comments received from the public and council raised at this meeting here this evening. To date, no comments have been received for this application. That's possible that future comments could be forthcoming. Comprehensive report with recommendations and options will be presented at a future council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. We'll invite the applicant up. Mr. Bruto, it's your opportunity. I don't know how much time you need. That's great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
My name is Claudio Bruto. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, the Frateroli family. I do appreciate the opportunity to speak to committee and to staff, and I have reviewed the staff report. I find all of its findings to be satisfactory. We look forward to continuing to work with this committee, with the good hard work of Drew and Marco and the staff, and bringing forward a plan of subdivision, hopefully for a recommendation to approve in the not-too-distant future. A lot of work has been put into it. I'm not going to read everything that's in here, but I'm sure Drew and his staff will, and you'll find, I suspect you'll find that everything in the document, the MESP, is in order. Whatever is not there, we will certainly do our best to provide it to the staff, and as Drew mentioned, this is kind of an infill piece to the larger Coots property that has been previously approved by this committee and subsequently by the council. So I'm not going to belabor it. It is 11 units. It's in keeping with the spirit of the official plan at 2 units to the acre. The environmental features that are on site will be protected, and it fits in well with the Coots property. There are ongoing discussions with the Coots to ensure that the two communities are developed together, and there's every prospect, every hope to believe that the same developer that's in discussions with Coots will end up with this property as well. That's a summary of my comments. I'd be delighted to answer any questions that might come forth from the committee staff and from the floor. I'm happy to get back on my feet and address any of those comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruto. We have no one in the House, I see, to come forward for comments. So, Madam Clerk, I think what we'll do is go to council and see if there's any questions of the presentation. Mr. Bruto, I don't know what council has, but don't go far away. No. Council Maracus, to the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just had a question, maybe if you could speak to the Stage 2 archaeological assessment, and if there was any findings, and whether they need to move to a Stage 3 or not?
There are no specific findings on the archaeological assessment pertaining to this particular property. Archaeological assessments were done for the block, and the archaeological findings pertained more so to a pet cemetery that is being dealt with by Coots. So there are no encumbrances as far as archaeology are concerned on this property.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Although it wasn't necessarily mentioned in your presentation, it is in the report. I just want to ask you with regards to the house that's on the site and the plan to demolish it, was there any consideration given to trying to utilize that on the property?
Through you, Mr. Chair, in response, I'm not sure we indicated that it would be demolished, but you're quite right, given the layout of the plan of subdivision. Am I on? Okay. We have done, when we did the Coots Master Servicing Plan, the block plan itself, we undertook a natural heritage assessment of all of the identified sites, including this one as part of an addendum, because it had not been reviewed as part of the overall block. So we commissioned the same heritage consultant, Unterman, to look at this property. He did identify that when it was built and all that, but it's in a condition that really there's no merit in preservation. Our client is going to keep it for the time being. May keep it forever. We don't know how fast he's going to move, but certainly from the heritage consultant's perspective, it isn't noteworthy enough to retain, and so that's the conclusion of his report. I know that there was mention made of it in this report, but I've spoken to Drew. We actually met very briefly on it, that the work for this particular property finds itself in the addendum to the Coots MESP for the block. So I'm going to direct the staff as to where to find that and get them a version that they can review for themselves.
Certainly, and I was planning to ask staff, but I just wanted to hear your thoughts on it as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. I've got Councillor Humphreys. Thank you. Any other comments, questions to the presentation? I don't see any, so we will conclude that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will now close the presentation and invitations from the public, and we will now put this on the table. Could I have someone put a motion on there? Councillor Gardner, seconded. Councillor Kim. Comments, questions?
Actually, I was going to put a different motion than the one that's recommended.
Madam Clerk, do you want to do it at this time?
There won't be any problem changing it if we need to? You'll have to get defeated. So my choice is to put an alternative motion on the floor to begin with. That would be fine. Thank you, but maybe Councillor Kim wants to
Councillor
hear.
Kim, you seconded, and I moved too quick. So,
Perhaps I could just say what I would like to put on the floor, and then, the motion I would like to put on the floor is, as stated, except instead of coming back to a future general committee meeting, it comes back to a further public planning meeting. And if I could have a second on that, I would speak to that, the reason for that.
Councillor Humphreys will second that.
Thank you. The land is on the Oak Ridges Moraine. It's an environmental protection area, an environmental restoration area, an ecological buffer is required. And on the last page, it says that there's going to be a requirement to submit a revised Phase 1 ESA, which I think is an environmental servicing assessment. So there's a lot of environmental issues here. If the answers that we receive at council are acceptable, maybe we won't go through with requiring it to come back to a public planning meeting. But my feeling right now is that we might need to do that. And with respect to no residents being here, well, the residents will be moving in the future, so the majority of them. So it's really up to us to ensure that this is protected for their future benefit as well.
Thank you, Councillor. What I'll ask is, since I can't ask the presenter to come back, I'll ask Mr. Ramuno to comment on the status. I thought most of that was going to be covered, but I'll let Mr.
Well,
Ramuno.
actually, I think, as I have a seconder, the motion is on the floor, so thank you. And of course, I forgot the heritage aspect.
If I could, Councillor, the reason we're asking for it to come back to planning is because of the sensitivity of the land. And we're fairly familiar with the Oak Ridges and the buffers and the features and all those things. And I would assume that those were planned. That's why I was going to ask Mr. Ramuno to comment on that for council. You didn't ask, but I think if...
Certainly you may ask. I'd like the motion to stand, but certainly I'd like to hear what Mr. Ramuno says.
It's on the floor, so Mr. Ramuno, if you could, as I understand, all this would be in place regardless, but if you can give us some sort of status on where we are. Thank you.
Certainly, to you, Mr. Chair. As Mr. Brewer has mentioned, he submitted the entire package with respect to all the required technical work, all the environmental reports that are required under the Oak Ridges Marine plan and our official plan. They're under review. So again, I'm in council's hands, but if once I'm directed to bring a report back, we will ensure that prior to me make a recommendation to council, that we will have completed a review of all those background reports and make the appropriate recommendations, as well as ensuring that those appropriate conditions of approval are included and attached to the approval of the subdivision. I think council's familiar with any plan of subdivision, as in this case, there's a lengthy list of conditions of approval, and those are technical requirements that need to be satisfied prior to development occurring.
Councilor Martin?
If I may respond, thank you, and I understand that. But as staff is reviewing all of those at the moment, and as we haven't got the comments from staff on that, I think it would be prudent to get those comments first. It's my personal feeling.
Councillor Humphreys?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I feel similar to Councillor Gardner's perspective. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done, in particular for this case. I've seen in the past, it could be wrong, but it looks like there's a lot of work for us to assess and provide our input to. I have a question, though. Did I hear correctly that there's a challenge with access to this property at the moment, in terms of or is there some work that needs to be done with the developers together? Just if you wouldn't mind clarifying.
Mr. Ramuno, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair. No, access has been protected through the original Coots development, so access is being provided, no direct access to Yonge Street, but there will be internal access from the approved subdivision road that was private road that was approved when we dealt with the Coots proposal. So it's internal access. Yep.
Thank you. And just another question, if that's okay. Just in terms of the pet cemetery itself, is this on that property, or is it another piece? I'm just interested in understanding.
Mr. Romano?
To Mr. Mayor, no, the pet cemetery was on the Coots property to the north, and it is, if you look at that, the chart on the screen, it's essentially located, it's not on this property, it's further north, and those lands have already been conveyed to the town, the pet cemetery site.
Oh, perfect. Thank you very much.
Councillor Tom?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Thompson touched on this briefly when he raised the question to the presenter earlier, and the report states that the owner proposing that the mentioned house that's on the property now be demolished, and that it seems as though that isn't the case. So could you perhaps, Mr. Rimino, speak to that? And also, if we haven't received an updated heritage assessment report, cultural heritage landscape, and the submission of a heritage impact assessment for the existing house, then if we endorse this as it stands, are we endorsing the demolition of a house that could turn out to be, I don't know, Charles Doan's birthplace or something like that?
Mr. Romano?
To you, Mr. Mayor, good question, and no, if council were to endorse the subdivision and zoning now, you're not endorsing the demolition of the home. We'll ensure that we do take a look at the previous heritage assessment. If we require an updated report, we will, but if the applicant is not proposing to demolish it, obviously it'll be retained on site. Regardless of council's direction on these applications, if council were to approve the applications before us, and the applicant then came forward to request a demolition permit, he still needs to go through that separate process. He'll need to submit a demolition permit with our building department, and because it's a listed property, he'll need to submit a heritage permit with the planning department, and that'll be a separate application and report that we would bring before the Heritage Advisory Committee and then to council in consideration of any demolition request. So that's a separate process.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Romano.
Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I can understand Councillor Gardner's concern and desire to have it come back to a public planning meeting because, if I understand correctly, not having all that information from those various studies, she'd prefer to have that before she makes a decision, and I can respect that. For me, I sort of see that particular thing as a question of conformity or compliance to those requested studies. So through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Ramono, most of the studies I looked at, they're technical in nature, and you've mentioned that. Obviously, for some of them, there's an obligation to be compliant or to conform, and I would assume that would be brought forward in any report, be it to a future public planning meeting or a general committee meeting, that the applicant has complied or conformed to the stated requirements. Is that correct?
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, that's correct, and I can elaborate. There's the applicant, or Mr. Bruto, in the work that he had submitted for the Coots property, had submitted a lot of background work, and that was reviewed previously. There's a lot of similar work that has been submitted as part of this application. We don't see at this point any insurmountable issues, but regardless, when we do come back with a final report, we will have all those matters addressed and have all that information for council to consider with respect to its conformity with the Oak-Ridges Marine legislation and our official plan policies and our environmental policies within our official plan. So that information will be presented to council, whether it's at a public planning meeting or a general committee meeting.
And I agree that the information is essential for us to have before final approval on this plan. I don't necessarily agree that we have to have another public planning meeting to have that before making that decision. And, I sort of draw a parallel with the previous application, the St. John's property, or obviously the Brookfield development at Timberlane. Those are ones where, my impression is the expectation is for them to come back to a future public planning meeting because the overall plan, the look, the design, the density, whatever the issue is not acceptable. And so the expectation is that they go away and take the comments presented by the public, by staff, and work together to make those changes or alterations and come back with a plan that is suitable, that people can, in general, get behind. And so in this case, it sounds like we're asking it to come back to a public planning meeting, but there may not be any changes to the existing design as we see it here. It's just an acknowledgement that all the studies have been submitted, they are compliant or they conform, or if there are any issues that were addressed, they've been resolved or at least brought to our attention. And so, for myself, I don't necessarily see the value of bringing it back to a public planning meeting when it can be achieved at a GC meeting. So that's my point.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Humphries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so then if I can ask through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Runo, this list of studies working with external agencies, I've never seen quite an extensive list. Maybe it's just page 5. There's a lot of ongoing assessments and studies, and it is on the open, which is moraine. There's lots of things that we still need to work on. But is this typical, and we're comfortable that we just want to, they all be fulfilled and satisfactory and go to a general committee meeting? My concern is, at that point, the public's not going to have the type of flexibility to speak to it as they would once we have the results come through to public planning. That's my only concern. This property is, we've done a great job trying to move things forward. There have been some, sensitivities. So for me, I just see a lot of information that still needs to be done and work by staff for input. But I could be wrong. I'd love your perspective, Mr. Runo.
I'd like Mr. Ramuno to comment on that list, if he could.
Certainly, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. This is something, it is a typical list, and those are background studies that are required for most applications. Within the marine area, obviously, there's always a couple extra environmental studies that are required. It is a typical list. Council may not have seen this list, us having listed all these studies in previous reports, because we weren't doing that. It was sort of hit and miss. We were always just identifying by way of a general clause that all the required background studies had been submitted a couple months back, because again, and council rightly so would occasionally ask, well, what studies have been submitted? So I've directed staff to ensure that in moving forward with any application that comes to public planning, we actually formally list all those applications that have been received as a complete application. So you are just seeing that it's something recent, but it's a typical list. And again, Councillor Thompson's assessment is accurate with respect to, as part of any review, we will ensure that, all the issues and all the background reports have been properly reviewed by the appropriate staff. And if there are any questions, we get those answers before we bring back a final report for council's consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Ramuno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I appreciate that. That's great. I love that we're doing this now. That's fantastic. And I do remember you stating that moving forward we'll do this. So that's great. That's probably why I'm looking at this thing. There's a lot of work to be done. And just one last on this. So is it typical for us at a planning meeting to not have a lot of this completed just, in the stage that it's in right now? Because it looks like we're either starting to work on it, just starting to review, but no answers yet. And that's typical, just to confirm again, Mr. Ramuno.
Mr. Ramuno?
Through Mr. Chair, yes, it is.
Good. Short answer. I've got Councillor Marakis and Councillor Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you there, Mr. Ramuno, just a quick question. Along the same lines, if council's not satisfied with any of the results of the studies or this, we can pretty much turn it down if it's at a general committee meeting. It doesn't necessarily have to be a public planning meeting.
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, yes, you could. Yep. But again, I'll just repeat, I won't bring back a recommendation on a report if I'm not satisfied with the review of technical studies. We'll be asking for that additional information from the applicant before we bring that back. But certainly, when we do report to whether it's the public planning or general committee with a recommendation, I always provide those options, and council could, again, either defer it or, refuse the application or request it to come back for additional information.
Councillor Good?
I was just going to make a comment. I guess I'm in agreement kind of with Councillor Thompson. From my understanding so far is that, to bring it back to a public planning meeting, we're looking at the change. Like, we want the developer to work with like the densities and the look of the layout of the plan. To me, I'm looking around, I don't see any of the councillors having a problem with the way this is planned out. I think our concerns are more with the studies, and I think if we're not satisfied with those studies, we can still, essentially say no to this. So I really don't see an issue with this going straight to general committee. Thank you.
And does the public get notified if this application comes back at general committee? Does that notification go back out as it did in this case? I don't know who I asked, you or the clerk?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have circulated the notice of the application to the residents and an ad in the paper. Considering that nobody's here, nobody's requested notification, it's not to say that as we move forward, we may still receive calls or letters from residents who want to be notified of any future meeting, and if we get those requests, they're put on our mailing list, and we then notify any interested resident of a future meeting where we're bringing forward a report to this to council. So they would be notified if they request to be notified.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Tom?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. My question is similarly along the lines, and maybe I'll ask it in a different way. If we turn down the motion on the floor and proceed with the recommendation, which is to move forward to GC, and if we do that and the environmental assessments or the ESA comes back and it's not satisfactory, what is the recourse at that point in time?
Okay.
So that's my question perhaps to Mr. Ramuno.
That's fine. The first part was about what's on the floor. So I'm going to ask the clerk where we are with that, and then we'll ask a question about the general committee and all the studies that are coming forward, because we've asked it before, but...
If I may, the reason I ask is because it will affect whether or not I support it or not. So.
Exactly. So, just so we know, Madam Clerk, if you could say we have a motion to have another planning meeting. If that's defeated, what would happen at that point?
Another motion could go on the floor to however council wishes, or if someone wanted to move an amendment at this point, that would be in order as well.
Could we go back to the original motion?
Yes, you could.
Okay, thank you. Now, you had a second part there, Councillor Tom.
And that was, thank you, Deputy Mayor. My question was, we were talking about whether or not, and I agree with Councillor Thompson and Councillor Marac's remarks that right now we generally are in agreement that there's no real changes that we're looking for. It's just whether or not the information that we don't have will perhaps change our minds in the future, and whether or not we'd rather have that information at a public planning meeting as opposed to a GC. And I'm just asking, and perhaps I'm not sure who best to answer this, or if anyone can answer it, but what recourse does council have at that point? I mean, I know the public will have differences in terms of their delegation status versus at a public planning meeting where it's a bit more open. But in terms of council, if the ESA comes back and if it's not satisfactory to council, what recourse does council have? Is it a refusal or not?
If I could, because it has been asked, Mr. Bermudo has stated that if the studies are not complete, he's not bringing it forward. So that's the very simple answer. If it takes 3 months or 3 years, that's how long it takes before they're completed. It's extensive. My take on this is, if I may, is that we use the public planning to engage the community. We notify them, and often if there's a big house and a lot of comments, we will naturally say, okay, we're going to have another planning meeting. In light of the fact that we have no one here, that part of our, usually when we go to second planning meeting, is not even under consideration. The fact that was brought up that the studies are not complete is not unusual. When they are complete, then it will come forward to committee. So my thought is we would move to general committee as suggested. Had there been a big house here, I would have, and we have seen council take a different route, and that would be a second planning meeting. So those are sort of where I see it as my comments going forward. Councillor Gardner, do you have another comment?
Well, thank you. I actually have comments on the report, but with respect to what's just been said, I do think it's premature to approve this. And I appreciate, and thank you, Mr. Bruder, I really appreciate that the...
Councillor, if I could, we're not approving anything. I stated that at the very beginning. I read that. No decisions are being made.
Thank you. I really appreciate that the density has been adhered to, and with a very, very slight variation. So that's just terrific. The notification area is 120 meters. A lot of the people, there are no people within 120 meters. The people are coming in the future. So that's why I was saying that we have the responsibility to speak for the public who might be here should there be occupants of the area at the moment. But I do have some questions with respect to the report. Mr. Mayor, it says in this report that we are going to, I wasn't sure, buy or ask the developer for some of the areas that need to be protected, some of the land that needs to be protected so that we can ensure that they are going to be protected appropriately. My question is, or my point is, these lands are really of no use to the developer. It will cost them money in the future, perhaps, to maintain them. So is the town thinking of purchasing these lands? No.
Mr. Bruno?
Through you, Mr. Chair. No. Block 6 on the screen are the lands to be retained. Those lands will be zoned the appropriate open space or environmental protection zone because they're not part of the developable area. What we typically do is we'll work with the applicant and our park staff to either, if they're not left in the ownership of the original owner, we'll try and get those secured and have those conveyed to us, as we did with the Coots property, conveyed to us as at no cost. But regardless of whether they remain in the owner's hands, those lands, Block 6, will not be developed. They'll be zoned, again, the appropriate open space or EPA zone.
Thank you. As a follow-up through you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So if we do not take possession of those lands, is there a way to ensure that they are being protected by the landowner?
Mr. Bruno?
Actually, in this case, it would be the landowners.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, there is, again, through the zoning, to ensure, number one, the official plan for Block 6, the official plan designates those lands as environmental protection, and we will then, through this rezoning, zone them as environmental protection, so they can't be used for anything other than just they'll be left in their natural state. The other mechanism we have as well, if they're not conveyed to us, we can ask for conservation easements over those as well. Those are discussions we'll have with the owner. But again, the lands are already designated under the official plan as environmental lands because they're part of the valley system, and we will, through this process, zone them as well. So the only lands that will be zoned to residential are the lands along the north that are within the developable area as residential.
Councilor?
And do we get to monitor whether or not these lands are being protected appropriately?
Mr. Romero?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, again, once once they're zoned, they can't be used for any use other than, again, left in their natural state. So that's, an enforcement issue. If there are any activities that are occurring on the site that don't comply with the zoning bylaw, we'll deal with it through enforcement.
I was kind of thinking more of us checking on them from time to time. It says that I'm on page 2, under location land use. Site previously housed the storage of industrial commercial trailers. Is there any possibility that this is contaminated land?
Mr. Romero?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Yes, it was, and I believe those trailers have all been moved off-site, and we've noted in the report, an environmental site assessment was also prepared, and our engineers are working with their environmental engineers. The site doesn't contain any contamination. There was a small area on site that had a slightly higher level of what was called as electrical conductivity, which is really some staining related to salt on that site. So it's not contaminated, but as part of a follow-up to that environmental site assessment, my engineers working with their environmental engineer requesting additional information, and as part of the conditions of approval, whether those sites, it will be determined whether that small area needs to be remediated or it could be left in its current state.
Thank you. Because of the sensitivity of this area, there's going to be a road that's going to be built. Are there going to be any extra precautions taken for that, or for wastewater? Does it require anything extra from the developer to ensure that the lands which are on the marina are protected?
Through Mr.
Just want to clear, that's related to stormwater and runoff, et cetera?
And roads?
And roads, thank you.
Through Mr. Chair. Yes, and again, because it's where it is within the marine landform conservation and environmental reports have been prepared, and as part of that original Block F Coots development application, we had already established through that comprehensive process the road pattern as stated here, and this application is following that road pattern, and it's being connected to the original road pattern that was approved as part of the Block F, and that road pattern, specifically the north, south, and east-west pattern, was placed in a location to minimize the disturbance within the area in accordance with the original landform conservation report.
Just as a follow-up, that road is going to be put through, Mr. Deputy Mayor, that road's going to be put through environmentally protected land, is it not?
Mr. Bruno?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, and that it is going through that open valley system that there was as part of that original approval. There are a number of lots that straddle that road as well, and it was considered a developable area, and again, that was vetted through all the appropriate agencies in response to the background reports that were submitted. So we don't have any issues with the road pattern as originally approved and as it's set out in the figures before us.
Councillor?
Thank you, and I guess I could go on, but I won't. But the last point would be the sanitary sewers. We know that they leak, we know that they get damaged, they break. So again, any extra precautions for that, because they're running through environmental lands?
So, Mr. Deputy Mayor, yes, and Council may be aware that through our 2C developments, Town of Aurora, our municipal standards, through our Director of IES, we've required a higher standard of in-ground sewer work with respect to that they are watertight connections to avoid future leakage, and that was all part of that inflow and infiltration pilot project that we partnered with the developers group and the region of York. So we are requiring those higher level of standards for our sewer pipes and manhole covers throughout town with respect to any new development.
Thank you. And I appreciate Council's responses to the motion that's on the table. I would be more comfortable if it comes back to a public planning meeting.
Thank you, Councillor. I think I've lost track. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Maracas.
Through you, Mr. Ramuno, on page 10 of the report, under financial implications, it says that as a condition of draft plan approval, there's going to be a collection of a community improvement benefit in the amount of $3,000 per unit for parks and rec facilities and so forth. I don't think I've seen that before. So is that, I guess something that we've asked for, something that the developers volunteered? I mean, could you just sort of talk to that for a bit?
Mr. Romano?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. It is something new, and with our CAO and the 2C group, they've agreed to contributing to our community improvement fund, and we had a discussion about that in our report yesterday evening. But moving forward with respect to all new residential development, we will be imposing a condition in subdivisions and site plans, and within those agreements, at a rate of $3,000 per new residential unit, specifically for ground-related units. And most of the development community doing work in town is aware of it, and they've agreed to it.
So just for clarification, then, even though there are only 4 blocks, we're talking 9 units, so it's $27,000 would be the expectation should all 9 be built.
Correct.
Thank you.
And then my second question is, if possible, could we put attachment or figure 6 on there, which shows the Coots development?
Can we ask Linda to do that?
Just one back, please. So, Mr. Ramuno, if you don't, through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Ramuno, Block 11, cluster residential, did we recently approve that for development as well? I can't remember. I know that obviously Block 15, I'm well aware of that, but I was just curious about Block 7, the institutional, as well as Block 11, the cluster residential, whether or not we've approved development on that or not. If you can just sort of speak to it, it really is the neighbors to the north and south of this development.
Mr. Romano?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Yes, that figure is really subdivision that council approved, I guess, last year, the Coots plan, 100 acres in total, and 195 townhome units, really within 3 blocks. So the large one, Block 15, contains the majority of the units. Block 11 to the south, that was approved through the Coots development as well. And then the institutional block was also part of that application. Just north of the institutional block is another block, I think it's Block 13, and that's another little 6 or 8 units there. So that is what we're looking at here is the prior plan of subdivision that received draft approval for the Coots plan, 195 units in total.
And so, I mean, obviously, who knows what in terms of timelines and plans and stuff, but I mean, really this whole area, with the exception of the property that you've identified previously as not participating in, we're all going to go through some form of development, and the same sort of technical analysis that's required here is required in different areas of this as well. Same sort of concerns around stormwater, sewage, everything will also be looked at, not just for this particular block that we have before us, but the whole property as a whole.
Yes, that's correct, and we will likely be seeing an application for one of the last larger land holdings, the block at the very northwest corner, just south of the rail lines. That's a separate non-participating owner. We will likely see a similar application coming in probably sometime later on this year on that site.
And then I think just my final comment, I think that's another reason to move forward to general committee. There may be an opportunity for some synergies in the development of the whole site, and I wouldn't want to unduly delay by having another public planning meeting unless it was really necessary. And so, as Mr. Ramuno has stated repeatedly, that, he would not bring it before us at general committee unless he is satisfied that it has complied and conformed and there are no issues with the technical analysis. However, as a council, we always have that right, should it come to us at GC, if we're not satisfied, to deny it. So, again, I'm still comfortable with it going straight to GC, and so I will not be supporting the motion before us.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Maracas?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, just want to bring on, Mr. Ramuno brought up a point when speaking to the community improvement benefit. I just had a question to add to that from what you said. Through you, Mr. Chair, you said it only applies to ground level units, so it's not going to be applying to like mixed density units or buildings, possibly like along Yonge Street where we do intensification?
Mr. Moreno.
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. No, our direction is to apply that to all future residential, but we're considering perhaps a lesser rate for higher density, more affordable units.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, that just came to my mind when they spoke to it, so I know it had nothing really to do with this plan. But my initial question was actually for page 18 on the report when it speaks to the trails, and I know it really doesn't affect this development, but I mean, it's the first time I'm seeing this, and I was just curious. We have some proposed grade trail crossings, and I'm wondering, so are these going to be crossings that, like, crossing the railway, like, at level? Or is there going to be like a bridge or underneath, like I'm not sure. Thank you.
So, okay, on this one, so along the rail we're talking about?
Yeah, we have two spots. We have the one with the box there, and then we have the one with the circle, right?
Sure. Mr. Romero, if you could tell us about that, please.
Certainly, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. This is from our Master Trails Plan, and it does identify those future or potential trail crossings between the community to the west. They have not been secured. What we have secured through the approval of the Coots application was the majority of the trail within this block outlined in yellow. So that they have been secured through the Coots subdivision. The north, south, and east-west trails by way of easements through these lands. But our Parks Department has not secured those future or potential crossings over to the community to the west over the tracks. But our Master Trails Plan does show those proposed trail crossings.
Okay. I guess just as a follow-up,
and of course we'll need to work with the Metrolinks to secure those.
Definitely, and I understand they're for future crossings, but I was just, I would be concerned if they were at level with the railway, right? So I would assume that if we did secure it, when we did proceed to build them, they would end up being either under or over the railway instead of at level.
Yes, and the Master Trail Plan speaks to ensuring that they're grade separated, so they would be either under or over.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Gardner?
Thank you. On that same page 18, there's something I've never seen before, and it goes along Yonge Street. It says, Future In Boulevard Multi-Use Trail. Could you please say what that is?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and maybe Drew could jump in, because I know we did secure I think easements or the region has secured easements for that trail that is running up Yonge Street through the regional right-of-way. But Drew, if you can jump in, just make sure I've got that right. It's been some time since I...
Thank you, Drew. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. There are town easements. The regional right-of-way actually doesn't... There will be a sidewalk on the regional right-of-way as to part of the bus rapid transitway that will be going in post-2020. The town itself has created a Yonge Street trail along Yonge Street on our right-of-way where we will be taking an easement. We did so in the Coots application, and we're currently in the process of doing it at Yonge and Elderberry. The trail itself will just be going along Yonge Street north-south through town lands. Thank you.
Councillor? Microphone, please.
Thank you. So this is a trail along the sidewalk? Is that what that actually means?
Drew, if you don't mind, I know it's proposed. We also have something similar at... I thought we also did it at the St. John's and Young. Quick copy, I think. We've got a trail easement, but Drew, if you don't mind, whatever you could shed on this, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. Again, the trail's not yet constructed. We're just taking the land right now and getting the legal easement access over those lands should a trail be built in the future, given that it's shown there. In terms of the specs of the trail itself, I do not believe that those have been determined as of this time.
So I'm just trying to picture this. This is a trail that's either on the sidewalk or along the sidewalk.
True. Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, it won't be along the sidewalk. It'll be sort of off-road, in open space, not on a sidewalk or near a regional sidewalk. It'll be on town land, off-road, in an open environment. But again, none of that has been constructed or any detailed design as of yet.
Thank you.
Councillor Humphries?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry if this is a little off topic, but I want to ask if that's okay.
Let's have it.
Just a quick question, and I keep going back to the pet cemetery because I have think it's really going to be quite a feature for us. Is there any indication on here, or can we, how public access will get to that?
Yes.
Just wanted to
It is a bit off, but if you can...
Would you mind? I'm sorry, it'll just help me a little.
It'll be a short, quick answer.
Really quick.
To you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, yes, we've secured the pet cemetery, and we've got to work on a management plan to ensure that, and we have those easements through these private lands, and we've got to work on a management plan to ensure that we can secure the proper public access to the pet cemetery.
Perfect.
But that's in the works.
So it'll be defined sooner or later. Thank you.
Yes.
Councillor, I just would like to, that pet cemetery has been conveyed to the town, and we can thank the Coots Development for that, and I acknowledge Mr. Coots' presence here in the chamber.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I'm thrilled. Thank you very, very much. I think that is incredible, an incredible, feature for our town, and it's going to be a destination point, and thank you so much. We're honored. I'm thrilled.
We're going to get back on topic.
Sorry.
That's all right. No, that was my fault. I decided why you brought it up. Council, if there's no other questions, we have the amendment before us, put on the floor by Councillor Gardner and seconded by Councillor Humphries. The clerk has mentioned, and I just summarize this, if that is defeated, then we can go back to another motion or the original motion. I think we've all given our thoughts, and I won't repeat mine. So I'll call a vote. Councillor, did you want to?
The motion on the floor is different than the one on the screen, correct?
That's correct. So what we're voting on is to have another planning meeting before we take it to General Committee. Correct, Madam Clerk? Okay, I'm going to call a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That fails. Would someone want to put on the floor a motion, Councillor Thompson, the original motion? A seconder, Councillor Tom. Comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries, Madam Clerk. I think we're at the agenda where I call for the reading of a bylaw. Now I'm lost.
Too many meetings.
It's all right. All right, so we're on to item 4. It was recommended that the following confirming bylaw be given first, second, and third readings and enacted. It's before you. Could I have someone move that? Councillor Kim seconded. Councillor Tom, comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Could I have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Maracas, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? Thank you very much. We are now adjourned. Thank you very much.